have reviewed the scanner logs 411 times. That number is not an exaggeration. It is the figure in my own review ledger, filed under Tribunal Docket Corel 7, and it represents 41 weeks of waking before dawn, pulling the raw telemetry from the archives of the Kethori War Registry, and asking the same question that this tribunal was convened to answer. When, exactly, did we misread them? My name is Sevath Corel. I hold the rank of Assessor Prime within the Kethori Dominion's senior war review body, and I have spent 32 years examining other commanders' catastrophic miscalculations. I have never, until now, been asked to examine my own, so let me be precise. For 40 years, 4 decades of slow, deliberate probing, the Dominion tested what Earth would tolerate. This was not recklessness, it was doctrine. The Expansion Margin Protocol, ratified by the full War Council on the basis of careful assessment, held that Earth's responses to provocation had a measurable ceiling. We had the data. We had the pattern. When we took the Vareth relay station in Year 6, Earth sent 2 frigates. They recovered the relay's contents, filed a protest with the Regional Compact, and withdrew. When we redirected the Amori shipping corridor in Year 14, sent a single corvette and a trade attaché. When we absorbed the outer colony at Dresh Haloon in Year 23, a colony of approximately 40,000 humans, Earth's military response was 1 destroyer, precisely as much force as was needed to confirm the colony's loss, and nothing more. Measured, always proportionate. We catalogued it as weakness. The War Council's formal assessment, which I myself signed, described Earth's responses as evidence of a species that understood its own limitations. A species that had learned, somewhere in its history, not to overextend. Cautious, calculating, safe to push. The quiet column proved us wrong in 31 minutes. That is what this tribunal's final report will be required to call them. Because Earth never gave the 11 ships a name. They never broadcast a designation. They never hailed us, warned us, or filed a protest. They arrived in the Ardennes corridor on the 41st day of the 41st year. The day after we moved our 400 warship combined fleet into position to formalize the corridor's absorption, and they simply began. I want the tribunal to understand the geometry of what the logs show. We had 400 warships. Earth sent 11. By any rational metric of force projection, this was not a counter-deployment. It was an insult. Our forward screen commander, Fleet Marshal Oveth Darren, logged at the time of contact. 11 hulls detected, non-standard configuration. Recommend we signal for their surrender. He transmitted that signal. There is no record of a response. There is, however, a record of what the 11 ships did next. They did not charge the formation. They did not spread out to maximize engagement range. They moved. And I use the word deliberately, because moved is the only term that captures the unhurried, almost administrative quality of what the logs show. They moved to the corridor's densest concentration point, which was our command and coordination cluster of 12 vessels at the formation's center, and they removed them, not in a single volley, sequentially, one after another at a tempo the registry logs describe as one elimination every 43 seconds, with no pause between targets, no reorientation delay, no observable recharge cycle between weapon deployments. 12 vessels, 8 minutes and 36 seconds, gone. The rest of the Wultine 400 ship formation attempted to respond. I will credit Fleet Marshal Duran's captains. They were not cowards. 47 ships broke formation and converged on the quiet column in the first 9 minutes. The column's engagement logs, which we partially recovered from debris, show they were handled in the same unhurried sequential manner. 47 ships, 31 minutes from first contact to silence. Our final tally, Felting 400 warships deployed. 14 hulls limped back to Dominion space with partial crew. 4 of those 14 never made it to dry dock. And this is the part of the log I need the tribunal to sit with. The quiet column did not stop at the Ardennes corridor. They went further. We had believed, based on 40 years of evidence, that Earth's responses matched the provocation and went no further. We believed this so completely that we had not prepared a secondary defensive line. Why would we? Every prior engagement had confirmed the ceiling. Every prior engagement, we now understand, had been Earth choosing where to set the ceiling. The 11 ships, These 11 ships that had just ended our entire forward battle fleet in 31 minutes swung out from the corridor, began working through the outer arc, methodically. Our listening post at Karath Dov, gone. Our resupply depot at the Marin Way station, gone. Forward staging platform at Ondaveth's moon, gone. The military installation on Thresh 9 that served the expansion margin protocol for 19 years. The facility from which we had coordinated our probing operations. The base that had been the administrative engine of our entire border strategy, gone. I want the tribunal to understand the scope of what going further means in this context. 18 installations across a span of approximately 340 light seconds. 14 were dedicated military assets. 4 were dual-use research outposts with garrison components. The column dismantled all 18. Our sensor relays on the arc perimeter stopped transmitting one by one, in a sequence that tracked the column's movement exactly, each relay going dark in the same administrative, unhurried cadence as the warship engagements. They were not attacking the relays. They were removing them the way you pull circuit boards from a dead machine before it's recycled, not destroying for the sake of destruction, removing function. Our entire early warning architecture along the outer arc, built across 19 years of incremental investment, was gone inside 4 hours. They were not punishing us. I do not believe they were punishing us. Punishment implies emotion, and there is nothing emotional in those logs. They moved through our outer arc the way a maintenance crew moves through a failing system, locating the sources of the problem, removing them, on, clean, quiet, final. We attempted contact 17 times. We opened every diplomatic frequency we had. We signaled the regional compact for mediation. We broadcast a formal cessation offer, a territorial withdrawal offer, concession of the Ardennes corridor, a reparations offer. None of it received a response. Not because Earth didn't receive the signals. The column's course corrections in the final hours confirmed they were tracking our transmissions. They heard every word. They simply had nothing to say to us. They stopped when they were finished. Not when we asked. Not when we begged. When the work was done, to whatever calculus they were operating by, they withdrew. Not to Earth. We tracked them to a holding position at the corridor's edge, where they have been sitting, silently, for 6 months. 11 ships. Engines at standby. No transmissions. Waiting, apparently, for us to demonstrate that we understand what happened. I have had 6 months to study those 40 years of prior engagements. And the conclusion this tribunal must record is the one that keeps me awake. It was never restrained because it had to be. The 2 frigates they sent in year 6. When we took the relay, they recovered what they needed and left because recovering the contents was all that was necessary. We had not yet risen to a threshold that warranted more. The destroyer at Dreshalun, the colony of 40,000 people? I have gone back through the settlement records. Dreshalun was classified by Earth's own colonial registry as a provisional outpost, defended, strategically marginal, recently established. Earth registered the loss, filed it, and chose not to escalate because escalation, against a probe of that scale, would have spent more than it recovered. Every measured response was a choice, not a limit, a choice. We looked at those choices and saw a species that didn't have more to give. We were reading the wrong document entirely. What we took for a ceiling was a budget. Earth was spending the minimum necessary force for the return in question and banking the difference. 40 years. And then we moved 1,400 warships into the Ardennes corridor and tried to formalize the absorption of a strategically critical transit route. The one corridor that, if held, would give us access to Earth's inner commercial spine, and Earth looked at the ledger, and the ledger said, now, the quiet column is still out there. 11 ships, engines at standby. We have not tested whether they will move again. My professional recommendation to this tribunal, for what it is worth after the conclusions I failed to reach 32 years ago, is that we not test it. We were not defeated by superior numbers. We were not defeated by a technology we didn't understand, or a tactic we couldn't anticipate. We were defeated because we spent 40 years watching a careful, deliberate, highly intelligent species spend exactly as much force as each situation required. And we mistook that precision for limitation. We did not see the patience. We only saw the restraint. They are not the same thing at all. Tribunal File Corel 7, Final Entry. Bird sealed pending full council review. Recommendation attached.